Yo, what's going on, guys? Mush back at it with another video. Want to go through this lengthy statement put out on Twitter by the Palworld Twitter account, which this level of transparency and clarity you don't see from a lot of game publishers and developers, and especially the top tier publishers. And when I say top tier, I don't mean how I perceive them. I mean the ones raking in the most cash, have the most support, etc., etc. So I really appreciate it, and it gives us an in-depth look on the future of Palworld as far as how they are going to dictate the business of the game and take the business of the game. I think that is something really to talk about when we talk about Palworld. And this isn't even a game that I am a super big fan of. Like, I appreciate it for what it is, but you guys know me, survival and crafting games, just really that side of gaming, not my cup of tea. Really like the Mon designs, really like the creature collecting aspect of Palworld, and I'm happy that a game like this has popped off the way that it did. And you can look at, the game's player base falling off a little bit, and we'll talk more about that. But let's go over this statement first, because I think it gives us a lot of clarity. Regarding the future of Palworld, TLDR, we are not changing our game's business model. It will remain buy-to-play and not free-to-play, or GAAS, which is Games as a Service. So, the in-depth post notes, recently an article was published in which we discussed the possible future direction of Palworld and ideas for continuing the game for a long time. In fact, this interview was conducted several months ago. At that time, we were still considering the best way forward for Palworld to create a long-lasting game that continues to grow. We are still discussing this internally, as it is quite challenging to find the ideal path, but we have already decided that the free-to-play games as a service approach is not suitable for us. Palworld was never designed with that model in mind, and it would require too much work to adapt the game at this point. Additionally, we are very aware that this just isn't what our players want, and we always put our players first. We are still considering skins and DLC for Palworld in the future as a means to support development, but we will discuss this with you all again as we get closer to that point. For now, our priority remains making Palworld the best game possible. We apologize for any concern this may have caused, and we hope this clarifies our position. Thank you for your continued support of Palworld. Skins, I don't think, is the worst idea in the world. It's all a balancing act when I look at things like DLC, microtransactions, and everything like that. When it comes to just cosmetic stuff, I don't get too concerned at that, as long as it's done with reason. And in the case of Palworld, it is a $30 budget title. You're already getting the game at a budget price point, and they're rolling out content updates. Now, the game is in early access. Content updates are to be expected in early access, so I can't give them, at least not a lot of credit for doing content updates right now. They sold a ton of copies. The game's in early access. Content updates at this point are to be expected. If in the long term they continue the content updates, if they continue to create a quality-filled experience and build a lot of trust and goodwill with their consumer, I don't think it's the worst idea in the world to drop some sort of DLC or skins. It's all within reason. When I look at a Ubisoft, I get so irritated by them because they're doing $130 gold editions, and it just seems like they're nickeling and diming you for things that should exist in a $70 game already. In the case of Palworld, it's a $30 budget title, and I'm going to be lenient with their decision-making, but more so, I would be lenient after early access. I think it's a bad idea to bake in a lot of skins and DLC right now because the game is still in early access, but if we're talking long-term, that's something that is obviously open for discussion, especially if they continue to do content updates. Look, it's great what Hello Games is doing with No Man's Sky. I can't have that level of expectation that you're going to perpetually support a game for 8 years and not monetize it. Like, that is a reality that I know is not possible for another developer, for a lot of developers and publishers. In the case of No Man's Sky, it seems to have paid dividends, and that game has just gotten bigger and bigger. And with NMS, you can make the argument, hey, the game was promised to be in a certain way in 2016, and now they're playing catch-up. Fine, but it's been 8 years since No Man's Sky has come out, and they've just been dropping free content update after free content update after free content update. I don't know if it's realistic for a game like Palworld, or any game in general. Like, any game, I cannot have these standards set, and maybe that's a fault in my line of thinking, that I'm just gonna get free content updates for 8 years without any level of added monetization. That is something that I just think isn't going to be feasible for a lot of developers, and that's fine. That's not the end of the world. What Palworld already offers for $30, I think, is fairly worthwhile. They're continuing to expand the game, and hopefully it gets better and better. For me, and I know this is definitely probably not the biggest thing, the Palworld team is thinking of, Pocket Pair is thinking of, but I would love some sort of single-player narrative-oriented component into it. I'm not talking about a gripping, redefining narrative, just something fairly basic. Like, I would really appreciate that for my style of game. I like a start point and an end point to my video games, you know? I like to ultimately be done and move on. If you do a content update, maybe I'll jump back in, but that's something that if they did, like, a single-player component, and they charge, I don't know, $10 for it on top of Palworld, and it's a narrative-based edition, I think I would be interested in that, and depending on the scale, the price point can be adjusted. Everything should be on the table, and when we talk about Palworld not being games as a service, not being free-to-play, which free-to-play titles generally are games as a service titles as well, that is when the concurrent player count comes into play, because yes, the game had a peak of 2 million plus concurrent players. However, this isn't a games as a service. This isn't free to play. The game is designed as a way that you play the game for an extended period of time, or a period of time in general, and then ultimately you move on to the next game. And let me reiterate that this is an incredibly healthy thing for gaming. In no world would we want a game that is charged for $30 and people are just playing it endlessly, and then suddenly all the other developers aren't selling their games, or a lot of them aren't selling their games. It's good that there is an ebb and a flow, and people are jumping from game to game and supporting other games. Game models are gonna differ with how a game structures its business, but in the case of Palworld, peaking at 2 million players, selling as many million copies of the game as they have, and then those people play the game, have a good time, move on. That is the cycle of life. That is how things work. Spider-Man 2 sold, whatever, 3 million copies in the first couple of days it was out. Do you think it has 3 million concurrent players at this point? No, people played it, they're done with it. Sony got their $70, and they move on to the next game. That's just how the cycle of this style of game development works. I know we look at things like the Concord concurrent player counts and talk about that game being a failure. That game's designed as a multiplayer games as a service title, and the perpetual player investment is at the heart of the game. And Palworld still got north of 20,000 players. It's gonna do very well. I think when 1.0 comes out, it's gonna get a resurgence of interest. Maybe not to the level of what it was at launch, but if they continue to do content updates, if they continue to build goodwill, people will take notice. There will be videos uploaded of big content creators talking about, oh, Palworld's so back, it's an even better experience than original, and it's the ebb and flow of the game world. This is a healthy thing to happen in gaming, and I just think because games as a service has popped off so much, people are so invested to the concurrent player count, which is important. Be mindful of data. Data is always good, but how you interpret data is more important than the data itself a lot of the times. You have to interpret the data in the right way and realize that data sets are not always created equally from game to game. But I digress. That's going to do it for me. I think Palworld's got a good future ahead of it as long as they put their resources that they have available to them in a way that is going to appease the majority of their player base or potential player base. You can't appease everyone. That's just never going to happen, but trying to maximize it and creating a game where the majority of people that want to play Palworld or have a interest in Palworld are going to appreciate it the most. For me, you know, like, I personally want a narrative-driven single-player component, and I'm not saying a crazy narrative, but I'm probably in the minority on that, and if they don't want to do something like that, they shouldn't tailor the game to just satisfy me. They should tailor the game to satisfy as many players as possible within their potential player base and the people that are interested, not just to satisfy me and what I want in video games. And I'm knowledgeable enough and realize that, you know, games can't be created just to cater towards the style of game that I personally like to play. But that's going to do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts. And again, a lot of credit to Pocket Pair for this level of transparency, which I do feel like more and more developers are coming to the table with. It's usually the smaller development studios, but, you know, it'd be nice to get that across the board. That'll do it for me. Your thoughts down below. As always, thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out. Hey, what's going on, guys? Mush here again. Hope you enjoyed the video. As you guys might know, YouTube's notification system is sometimes a little bit wonky, even if you're subscribed to the channel. Maybe you're not abundantly aware that I uploaded a video. To remedy that situation, make sure you hit the bell notification button. This way, whenever I upload a new video, and I try to upload as consistently as possible, you will be notified directly of the upload, and you can watch it as soon as it goes live. I would really appreciate it if you guys hit that button so you can stay up to date with all of the content I'm posting. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.